She came from America, he came from Africa. But neither knew that one unexpected moment would change their hearts forever. The first time Amani saw her, the world went quiet. He was standing near the old baobab tree at the edge of his small African village, where the earth smelled of sun-warmed dust and the wind carried whispers of forgotten stories. It was late afternoon. The sky blazed gold, and then she stepped out of the open-roof Jeep like someone drawn from a different life. Light brown hair lifted by the breeze, eyes wide with curiosity, and a smile that didn't know it was about to break someone's heart open. Her name was Madison Carter, an American girl, a traveler looking for something she couldn't yet explain. Amani felt the ground shift under his feet. Not because she was different, not because she came from the world he had only seen in pictures or heard through worn-out radios, but because the moment their eyes met, her gaze bright, his steady yet startled, something warm pushed against his ribs, like his heart had just learned a new rhythm. She blinked, then smiled. And in that instant, he knew he would never forget her. Madison had come with a volunteer group to document local cultures for a short humanitarian project. She wasn't expecting adventure. She wasn't expecting magic. And she definitely wasn't expecting her breath to catch when she saw a boy standing beneath a towering tree staring at her like the sky itself had paused for her arrival. Amani looked young but grounded, with gentle eyes that seemed to understand more than most people she had met back home. There was something timeless about him, something quiet yet powerful, like a story waiting to be heard. When the group leader introduced them, Amani and Madison shook hands. Her fingers brushed his palm, warm, soft, careful. He felt something spark. She felt something shift. Neither spoke of it. Over the following days, Madison walked through the village with her camera slung around her neck, capturing the beauty of simple lives, the laughter of children, and the dance of sunlit shadows on red clay walls. And every day, Amani somehow found himself there, guiding her, translating for her, explaining traditions, helping her climb rocky paths, or simply walking beside her in comfortable silence. He showed her how the river changed colors at dawn. She showed him how to take pictures that captured more than faces, pictures that held stories. He taught her the meaning of certain local songs. She read him lines from her favorite American poems that spoke of longing and faraway dreams. They learned each other without meaning to. They grew closer without trying. And each night, Madison lay in her small guest hut, staring at the ceiling, the sound of distant drums drifting through the dark. She thought about Amani's laugh, his quiet confidence, the softness in his voice when he told her village legends. She wondered why she felt drawn to him in ways she couldn't explain. He belonged to this land. He belonged to this sky. But somehow she felt he belonged to a place inside her, too. A place that had always been waiting. thought about her too. He had lived his whole life in this village, surrounded by the same woven stories, familiar voices, and predictable paths. His dreams were simple: to study, to help his people, to build something meaningful. But now, when he looked at Madison, he felt a new dream rising, something fragile, something impossible, something beautiful. He told no one, not even his mother, who noticed the change in his eyes. Not even his younger sister, Asha, who teased him every time he pretended he wasn't waiting for Madison to appear, with her shy smile and that camera she always carried like it was a part of her heartbeat. One evening, everything changed. The sun was melting into the horizon, spreading orange streaks across the sky. Madison had asked Amani to take her to a quiet place, a hill she had seen earlier but hadn't climbed yet. They walked together, their footsteps blending with the rustle of dry grass. For the first time they were away from the noise, away from curious eyes, away from everything except the wind and their own pounding hearts. When they reached the top, Madison gasped. The land stretched endlessly before them, green patches, winding rivers, golden fields glowing in fading sunlight. The world looked untouched, pure, timeless. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Amani didn't look at the view. He looked at her. "You are seeing it with new eyes," he said softly. She turned to him. "Maybe, but I feel like I'm seeing myself differently here too." He frowned lightly. "How?" She hesitated. Her voice came out fragile. "I came here to escape things I couldn't fix. I was lost. I still am, maybe, but when I'm here, when I'm around you, it feels like something inside me stops running." Amani's breath caught. Madison looked away, embarrassed by her own honesty. He stepped a little closer, slowly, gently, like approaching a frightened bird. "You don't have to run here," he said, "not from yourself, not from anything." She lifted her gaze to him again. Her eyes glimmered with something raw and real. "Why does it feel like you understand me?" she whispered. Amani swallowed. "Maybe because I feel something too." Her heart stumbled. Silence wrapped around them, heavy, warm, trembling. Wind brushed past, lifting her hair. Without thinking, Amani reached forward and tucked one stray strand behind her ear. His fingertips barely grazed her skin, but the touch burned through them both. Madison's eyes fluttered. Amani stepped back quickly, afraid he had crossed a line. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she said, her voice barely audible. The air between them tightened. Her heartbeat quickened. His chest rose and fell like he was struggling to breathe. "Amani," she whispered. He wanted to step closer. He wanted to tell her everything, how her laughter stayed with him, how her presence softened his fears, how he felt seen in ways he never had before. But he also knew she would leave soon. A week, just 1 week left. And he didn't know how to hold love that was destined for departure. Madison sensed the unspoken fear in his silence. She stepped closer until her shoulders brushed his. The warmth between them felt electric. "I don't want this to end," she whispered. Amani closed his eyes against the ache growing inside him. "Then don't let it," he whispered back. Their breaths mingled, their hearts trembled. Their worlds leaned toward each other. But the sun dipped below the horizon, and the moment remained suspended, beautiful, unfinished, trembling with promise. They walked back in silence. But something had shifted. Something undeniable. Something that would change both their lives forever. The days that followed carried a quiet electricity, an unspoken rhythm that pulled Madison and Amani toward each other in ways neither dared to name. The village carried on with its usual heartbeat, children running barefoot, elders talking beneath shaded huts, fires crackling at dusk, but for Amani and Madison, every moment seemed to slow, deepen, sharpen. Their eyes met more often. Their conversations lingered longer. Their silences felt fuller, warmer, charged. But love, especially the kind that begins unexpectedly, rarely grows without shadows. And soon, the shadows arrived. One early morning, Madison woke with a heaviness in her chest. She had 7 days left, 7 days before she would have to return to New York, back to her life, back to the responsibilities she had escaped, back to the family that loved her, but never truly understood her restlessness. She didn't tell Amani, she couldn't. Instead, she asked him to take her to the river again. He agreed instantly. As they walked side by side along the narrow dirt path, their arms brushed occasionally. Each touch felt accidental, yet neither moved away. For Madison, the connection felt too precious, too fragile to break. For Amani, it felt like a memory in the making. Something he wanted to hold on to long after she was gone. They reached the riverbank just as the morning sun turned the water into a shimmering path of light. Birds dipped low across the surface. The air smelled of damp earth and new beginnings. Madison sat down on a smooth rock near the edge. Amani sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her arm. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," she said softly. Amani glanced at her. "Why?" "Because I want to know the real you," she whispered. "Not just the guide who helps me, not just the boy who shows me sunsets. You." Amani looked down at his hands. He drew a slow breath, steadying himself. "When my father died," he began, "I felt like the world lost its shape. He was the one who taught me everything: how to work the fields, how to speak with respect, how to dream. But when he was gone, I felt like the air changed. I had to become strong, fast, for my mother, for my sister, for myself." Madison's chest tightened. She reached out, hesitating only for a moment before placing her hand over his. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He nodded, accepting her comfort. "I don't talk about him much anymore. It still hurts, but telling you feels different, lighter. Madison smiled softly. Thank you for trusting me. Amani looked at her, then really looked. Your turn. Tell me something you never tell anyone. She stiffened slightly. The truth inside her was heavy, tangled, raw. My parents fight, she said finally. Not loud fights, silent ones that feel colder than shouting. I grew up always trying to be the peacekeeper, trying to be strong, trying to be perfect, but I was always tired. I think that's why I travel. I think that's why I came here. I needed space to breathe, space where nobody expected anything from me. Her voice cracked it at the end. Amani's gaze softened with tenderness. He squeezed her hand gently. You don't have to be strong here, he whispered. Madison blinked rapidly, trying not to cry. I didn't expect to feel this safe with you, she admitted. I didn't expect to feel anything. Amani swallowed. I didn't expect you either. Their hands remained intertwined, simple, quiet, but full of unspoken truth. That evening, the tension between them grew sharper. Madison was helping Amani's sister Asha gather firewood near the huts when a familiar voice called from behind them. Madison. It was Daniel, the leader of her volunteer group, a man who had always believed he understood her more than she understood herself. Can we talk? He asked, his tone too firm. Madison hesitated. Daniel rarely demanded things. His tone made her uncomfortable, but she followed him a short distance away. Amani is a good kid, Daniel began, hands on his hips, but don't get too close. Her heart dropped. What are you talking about? She asked. Daniel sighed. You're leaving soon. You know this. It's not fair to lead him somewhere you can't stay. The words stabbed her. I'm not leading him, she replied quietly. Daniel scoffed. You think I haven't noticed the looks, the walks, the way you talk to him? You're confusing him. This kind of connection is none of your business, she cut in, surprising herself with her sudden fire. Daniel stared, stunned. Madison turned away, forcing calm into her breathing. But in that moment, something inside her cracked open. The truth she had been avoiding rose to the surface. She was falling for Amani. Deeply, dangerously, beautifully. And she didn't know what to do with that. That night, she found Amani sitting alone near the baobab tree, staring up at the moon. He didn't hear her approach until she sat beside him. You disappeared, he said gently. I needed to think, she answered. He nodded, waiting, always patient, always calm. Madison drew in a shaky breath. Money, I'm leaving in 7 days. His body froze. The words hung between them, cold and heavy. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stared at the ground, as if trying to swallow the pain rising inside him. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. Amani finally looked up. His voice was barely steady. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't want it to feel real, she answered honestly. Amani looked away again, jaw tight. You came into my life like the first rain after drought, and now you're telling me the storm ends in 7 days. Madison's throat tightened. I don't want this to end. Then stay, he whispered. Her breath broke. I can't. Why? His voice was raw. Because my life is not here, she whispered. My responsibilities, my family. And what about us? His voice trembled. What about what we feel? Madison closed her eyes, tears burning. I don't know. Amani stood abruptly, pacing a few steps away. Pain etched his features. For you, this is a moment, he said softly, a memory, a beautiful story, but for me, his voice cried, it's more. Madison stood too, stepping toward him. It's more for me too. He looked at her, heartbreak shining in his eyes. Then why are you already letting go? I'm scared, she whispered. Amani stared at her for a long moment, his chest rising and falling sharply. But then, unexpectedly, he stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. Madison gasped, her heart slamming against his. He held her tightly, desperately, like she was the only truth left in his world. And she realized something. She was holding him just as tightly, breathing him in, feeling his warmth, fearing the ending, craving a beginning. The night wrapped around them like a secret, but a clock was already ticking, and neither knew how to stop it. The final days moved like water in cupped hands, precious, fleeting, impossible to hold, no matter how tightly Amani and Madison tried. Every sunrise felt like a countdown. Every shared moment felt heavier, sweeter, sharper. Madison woke each morning with a knot in her chest, torn between the world she had always known and the world she was suddenly terrified to leave behind. Amani woke with a similar ache, his thoughts filled with her laugh, her soft questions, her presence that had somehow woven itself into the rhythm of his life. They spent every possible moment together, walking the dusty paths, talking beneath the ancient baobab tree, sitting by the river in long, warm silences that spoke more than words ever could. But the unspoken fear hovered the fear of goodbye. On the third night before her departure, a storm rolled across the sky. Thunder cracked in the distance, and the village lights flickered like trembling fireflies. Madison stood under the shelter of Amani's porch, watching the rain hammer against the earth. She felt him approach before she heard his footsteps. You shouldn't be out in the rain, Amani said softly, stepping up beside her. She kept her eyes on the sky. My whole life is a storm, Amani. I'm used to the rain. He glanced deep at her, understanding the deeper meaning behind her words. But you don't have to stand in every storm alone. Madison turned to him then slowly, like she was afraid he would vanish if she moved too fast. And what happens when I leave? You won't be in New York. You won't be there when I feel lost again. Amani stepped closer, The rain framed him, droplets catching on his eyelashes and tracing down his skin like silver threads. "You haven't asked me what I want," he said. Madison swallowed. "What do you want?" His answer came without hesitation. "You." Her breath caught. "I want you," he repeated, voice low but steady. "Not just for these days, not just for these moments. I want to try, even if it's hard, even if we live in different worlds." Her chest tightened painfully. "Long distance, across continents, Amani, it's almost impossible." "Almost," he corrected, "not completely." She shook her head, tears blurring the rain. "What if we break? What if this ruins us?" Amani took her hands gently, as if they were made of fragile glass. "Then we will break. But at least we tried. At least we didn't walk away out of fear." Madison felt a world tilt, his sincerity wrapped around her like warmth in the cold storm. "I'm scared of losing you," she whispered. "And I'm scared of never having you at all," he replied. The storm roared in approval, thunder echoing across the sky. Madison stepped into his arms, letting her forehead rest against his chest. She felt his heartbeat fast, real, trembling. Amani wrapped his arms around her, anchoring her to the earth. In that moment, the storm outside felt small. But storms don't last forever. The night before Madison's flight, the village held a small farewell gathering. Children performed dances, elders offered blessings. Madison smiled through it all, but her heart felt suspended between two worlds. Amani kept his distance, watching her quietly from the edge of the firelight. He knew she needed space. He also knew that if he touched her now, if he held her now, he might never let her go. After the gathering, Madison found him sitting alone near the river. The moon shimmered on the water like scattered pearls. "You're awfully quiet tonight," she said softly. Amani looked up. "I didn't want to say something I'd regret." "What would you regret?" "Ask me in the morning," he murmured. She sat beside him. "I don't want to leave with regrets either." Their shoulders touched. The night air was cool, but their closeness felt warm, almost blazing. "Tell me something," she whispered, "something I'll remember when I'm gone." Amani thought for a moment. Then he spoke with a softness that broke her open. "You changed the way I breathe," he said. "Before you came, I didn't know how heavy loneliness could be. I didn't even know I was lonely. You lit something inside me, something I didn't know was there." Madison blinked hard. "Amani." He lifted a hand, silencing her gently. "And when you leave tomorrow," he continued, "I don't want to lose that light, even if it means holding on to it from far away." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She leaned into him, letting his arm come around her shoulders. They sat like that, quiet, connected, breaking and healing in the same breath. It was their last night. And it hurt more than either could say. In the morning, the world felt too bright. Madison's suitcase stood beside the Jeep. The volunteer group was preparing to depart. The engine rumbled softly in the background, an impatient reminder that time wasn't theirs to command. Amani walked with her to the edge of the village. No words, no brave faces, just silence thick with unspoken desperation. When they reached the old baobab tree, the place where their worlds had first touched, Madison stopped. Amani stopped too. "This is where I first saw you," he whispered. "And where I first felt something I didn't understand," she said. He looked at her with eyes full of longing and fear and love, so much love. "Madison," he breathed, "before you go, I need to know, will you try? Will you give us a chance?" She stared at him, her heart splitting in two directions, one toward home, one toward him. "I want to," she said softly. "I want to, more than anything." "Then say yes." His voice cracked. Madison stepped closer, reaching up to touch his face. Her thumb traced the curve of his cheek, memorizing him. "Yes," she whispered, finally giving her heart permission to hope. 1,000 times yes, we'll try. Relief flooded him. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. Then, as if pulled by gravity, they moved closer. Madison felt his breath against her lips. Amani hesitated just for a beat, searching her eyes for permission. She nodded. Their lips met, soft, tender, desperate, full of everything they couldn't say and everything they had to believe. It wasn't a perfect kiss, but it was real, raw, beautiful. When they pulled apart, their foreheads stayed pressed together. "Promise me something," Amani whispered. "What?" "Don't let distance make you forget the feeling of this moment." Madison cupped his face. "Only if you promise the same." "I promise." Their hands stayed linked until the last possible second, until Madison climbed into the Jeep, until it began to move, until the village faded behind dust and sunlight. Amani stood there long after she was gone. Not broken, not hopeless. Just holding a love that refused to fade. Months passed. Calls, messages. Long nights of talking across time zones. Laughing. Sharing. Learning to build a bridge between continents. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And it grew. One evening, Amani received a message from Madison. "I'm coming back." Just 3 words. But they reshaped his entire world. Amani read them again and again, heart pounding like a drum. Their story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. Their love crossed oceans, their hearts defeated distance. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more heart-melting tales.